Are you wanting to feel a little bit more relaxed, maybe calmer, maybe things are a bit stressful, and your mental health's not feeling as good as you'd like it to be as a guy, right? Well, today I'm going to talk about the power of breath work that I've experienced for really getting me into more resourceful, calmer states like that. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then. Before we dive in, just want to mention that if you want to connect even more with me and follow even more content, then I have my social media links listed in the show notes below. I started breathwork really when I was or discovering it in like 2022, so not too long ago. And I remember coming across this group called Somatic Breathwork, and that's all about going into the body and experiencing emotions and expressing what needs to be expressed. It's often repressed or stored in the body that needs to be felt, right? And I did a little bit of it and it felt really good. And I sort of was on and off, not really massive amounts. And then 2023, I did a bit more. And now this year, I like really live it. I like do it every day, right? It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. I made a real commitment to it. And I'm actually training as a breathwork practitioner right now to aid my understanding. And watch this space in future. I may be offering online breathwork sessions so you can really experience, and I'll make it very reasonable to do them as well, whether it's one-to-one or group. And I wanted to experience it myself, so I booked in some sessions with my current coach, and he's an amazing coach, and we did some real deep sessions that I'd get very emotional. Sometimes I'd be really angry. Sometimes I'd be really like crying. Sometimes I'd be like laughing. And the other day we had a session and we did some deep work, and I really was like releasing quite a lot of the intense things in my life. And I started like punching things. I was throwing tantrums, and that was the inner child of me really letting a lot out. And I really started to get upset, and he was able to sort of, the thing about being a breathwork facilitator is you don't want to you want to allow that person to have space, but there are certain techniques you can do to allow them to express whilst giving them the comfort of safety, right? And he was able to do that and allow me to really cry out what I needed to. And after I released a lot of this tension, I felt very calm after. It was quite an emotional session. And I felt really called to talk about it today. And it's something I do every morning. Now, each morning I don't do a long session like I did with him. But I do like short practices to really get me into an intense state, which allows my nervous system to, and I'll explain some tips for you in a minute, that really allows my nervous system to get fully activated so that it can relax afterwards. And there's different parts of us. There's the parasympathetic system, and that's made up of the ventral vagal and the dorsivagel. Now, the ventral vagal is like the calm part of us. When we're in like a calm, resourceful state, we feel safe. The ventral vagal is when we're not like intense, like fight or flight or fear or anything like that, but we're very shut down. It's when you might be feeling things like apathy or down or depressed. And it can go to that state as well. But it could also go to the sympathetic state. This is when you're really activated, you're in fight or flight, you're like danger. It might be like if you had to do a speech and you're really nervous about public speaking, that's what sympathetic would be. It's activated for and it's really useful if you were in a real life or death situation, because it's like fight or flight, use up all my resources. The problem is we're conditioned to feel a lot of stress as human beings day to day, and it's not good. We see a lot of people with chronic illnesses because of things like stress. Stress is a huge killer. And what it does is when we're in that sympathetic state all the time, it takes up a lot of our body resources so that we can't heal or aid the other parts of us that need to be healed and aided in our body. And therefore that creates the illnesses, right? So, and again, obviously, as I always say, if you've got like a serious mental health challenge, do go and speak to a professional, mental health professional, because I'm not one. I'm just sharing my breathwork experience with you, as always. So we have different parts of the body, and I'm going to go into how some ways you might be able to jump into this. But how does it feel when you're perhaps in a very activated state? You're like stress, and you're wanting to be calmer, or perhaps you're like really down, you're really exhausted, you don't have much energy. Well, it doesn't usually feel very good. And it's not saying you should never experience that. We're human beings. We're in a living experience of different emotions, right? We can't feel elated and ecstatic all the time. Yet I want to feel good emotions more often than not, right? You probably do too, right? If you're listening to this. And I found that breath work helps me get back to a calmer state a lot quicker. And it's made a massive difference in my life. So what I would suggest is have a look on YouTube for some breathwork practices. There's some good stuff from people like Wim Hof, which are really, really good. That would be my first bit of guidance. The second one is to go on somatic breathwork and go on to the website. Now, I'm not listed on there at the moment because I'm currently going through the certification, but there's a lot of practitioners on there, and I'm part of that. As I'm going through my certification, where you can do various work on that, or various. You could have a one-on-one or a group session with a practitioner. Probably a one-on-one. They're very reasonable. They're about $100 to $200 a session. Now, if anyone's going, that's a lot of money. Well, people spend that kind of money on nights out or meals out, and that's not really going to help your mental health, is it? So again, that's something I'm very passionate about. People don't invest in their mental health, but invest in things that ruin them. So then the third thing I'd recommend is reading a book called Breathe by James Nestor. It's got some real understanding into breathwork there. So those are just some resources I'd recommend around breathwork. But again, I can't talk about it too much. It's something you've got to experience and see what works for you. Now, just before I get on to my extra point, and it's just a very simple point, just want to mention again that if you want to keep up to date with all my latest content and connect with me on social media, I will leave my link in the show notes below. My extra point is think about times when you've been very calm, right? And maybe it's from, even if it was like drinking something or exercising or eating something, or you're around a bunch of people. Next time you feel that, start noticing your breath. Chances are your breath is like calm, controlled, it's not too quick, it's probably deep and open. And therefore, what I found is when I'm like hugely stressed or frustrated or just not feeling as energetic, when I start changing my breath, I start changing how I'm feeling, and therefore I start thinking a little bit different. Bit more resourceful. So just pay attention next time you're feeling really good. How are you breathing? And take note of that and think about how you can start getting more breath work into your day as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, the power of breath work. Again, I'm certifying as a breathwork practitioner, so I'll be offering sessions once I'm done with that. And again, if you've got a serious mental health challenge, do go and consult with an actual professional. Of course, again, I'm just sharing my experience. So I'll go through my own challenges and the power of breathwork in this case today. Right, so I appreciate you for being here. You'll improve other people in your life by working on yourself as a man. And remember to lead with your heart, not with fear.